In 1914, the world was sold a lie, a promise of a short, glorious war, a conflict that would be over by Christmas. But this promise quickly dissolved into a 4-year nightmare, a catastrophe that would claim millions of lives and leave scars on the soul of humanity that have never truly healed. This was the First World War. Forget the romantic notions of cavalry charges and honorable duels. The reality was a descent into hell on earth. The war was fought in a labyrinth of trenches, festering wounds carved across the face of Europe. These ditches were filled with mud, blood, and the constant presence of death. Soldiers didn't just fight the enemy. They fought a daily battle against rats as big as cats, against the torment of lice, and against diseases that spread like wildfire. They tried to sleep beside the decaying bodies of their fallen friends, their dreams haunted by the whistle of a shell, waiting for the next suicidal order to go over the top and charge headfirst into a hail of machine gun fire. This was a new kind of war, a war of industrial-scale slaughter. The battlefield became a factory of death. Machine guns, a marvel of engineering, could mow down hundreds of men in mere seconds, turning waves of brave soldiers into heaps of broken bodies. Artillery, more powerful than ever before, rained down a constant storm of fire and steel, shattering the earth, shattering bones, and shattering minds. The sound alone was enough to drive a man insane. And then, as if the horrors weren't enough, came the most terrifying invention of all: chemical warfare, a silent, creeping killer. Clouds of green chlorine gas and yellow mustard gas would drift across no man's land, seeping into the trenches. It didn't just kill, it tortured. It burned skin, blinded eyes, and filled lungs with fluid, causing men to suffocate slowly and agonizingly. Imagine the sheer terror of seeing that creeping fog, knowing there was nowhere to run. For what was all this suffering? Not for grand victories or strategic masterstrokes, but often for just a few inches of cratered, blood-soaked mud. Entire towns and villages, once full of life, were wiped off the map, reduced to wastelands of tangled barbed wire and skeletal trees. The landscape itself screamed in agony. The war's devastation wasn't limited to the physical. It destroyed minds just as brutally as it destroyed bodies. It gave birth to a new kind of wound, a wound of the soul they called shell shock. Today we know it as PTSD. Soldiers returned home not as heroes but as broken men, their eyes haunted by the things they had seen, their sleep shattered by nightmares. These psychological wounds were as deep and as permanent as any trench. By the time the armistice was finally signed in 1918, the world was a different place. Over 16 million people, soldiers and civilians, were dead. Mighty empires that had stood for centuries, the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, the Russian, had crumbled into dust. The map of the world was redrawn, but the peace was fragile, built on a foundation of resentment and loss. The tragic irony is that this was meant to be the war to end all wars. Instead, its brutal legacy and the unresolved anger it left behind planted the poisonous seeds for an even darker, more devastating conflict just 2 decades later. The First World War wasn't just a chapter in a history book. It was humanity's first terrifying glimpse into the abyss of industrialized death, a chilling reminder that the march of progress and the potential for unimaginable horror often walk hand in hand. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video insightful, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into history. We'll see you in the next one.